Hello and welcome to this online personal branding masterclass to be well known, well paid and wanted. Thank you so much for being here. I just wanted to double check that you can see everything and everything's working. We had some fun and games yesterday with some gremlins in the works, and I want to make sure that you have everything you need on the webinar. So what I'd like you to do is when you get into the webinar, when you log in today, I'd like you just to have a look at the chat box. It should be on the right-hand side of your screen, and just pop in there, just say hello, ask questions. What I'd really like you to do to start with is just say hello and maybe tell us where you're from, which would be really cool. So we had some gremlins yesterday. I'm really sorry about that. Nothing we could do about it, unfortunately, but it is fixed now, which is very cool. So yes, I'm just hoping that everyone can see the screen and everyone is getting the messages that are going out, which is very cool. So thank you very much for your patience. If you did try to get on yesterday and had trouble, I'm sorry about that. We are rerunning this today and there will be a replay. If you're watching the replay, congratulations. Thank you for your patience and thanks for getting on. It's been a real pleasure to try and put this together for you. And today, hopefully we can give you a lot more information than we did yesterday. So thank you very much. So when you jump in, please just say hello and where you're from. If you're watching the recording, I believe you can also jump in there and use the chat box to say hello to us as well and ask questions. And they just come to us as an email. So hopefully you can hear us all. If you want to jump in that chat box, say hello, let us know that you're here. That'd be really cool. It helps for our end so that we know that we actually are working, which is really cool based on yesterday's snafu where we had the gremlins on board. So thank you very much for your patience. It's a pleasure to have you here. Like I say, if you're watching the recording, you can ask questions and they come through to us as emails. And if you're in the live webinar, please do use that chat box. You should be able to see that on the side of your screen. Now, before we get started, I'm actually going to get a poll going because I really want to know where you guys are at. So I'm just going to start a poll and hopefully you will see that on your screen as well. And I'm just going to ask you a quick question. I'd really like to know where you're at with your personal brand. And you can answer this poll even in the recording, I believe. So hopefully you can do that as well. But what we're looking at is asking you, what is your personal brand? Where's it at? What is it like? So there's a question up there if you wouldn't mind answering that for us. First of all, the answer is it's non-existent. No one really knows what it is that I do. I don't stand out from anybody else. I'm doing my own thing, but it's really hard for me to stand out. So maybe you could answer that one. Maybe you're okay. You're out there. You know your brand. You know a little bit about what you do. You know how to explain that, but you'd like to be clearer so that you can get more clients. And maybe that's you. So maybe you'd like to answer that one on the poll. Or maybe you are well-known, well-paid and wanted, and you're attracting lots of clients, but you'd just like to get paid a little bit more. Maybe you'd like a little bit more respect. Maybe you'd like to have a few more referrals. Maybe you'd like to have more speaking events. Maybe you'd like to have a little bit more of a reputation out there so that you could get paid more as well. So some answers coming in. Thank you, guys. That's awesome. It's great because what I'm going to be doing is sharing with you the foundation work behind a personal brand today. And I want to make sure I'm not doing it too basic or too advanced. I want to get it just right, like good old Goldilocks with the porridge. We want to get it just right. So if you could answer that poll for me, that'd be great. Thank you. Some answers are coming in, which is very cool. At the moment, it looks like people seem to be mostly okay, but they'd like to get more clear so they could naturally attract more clients and ideally get paid a bit more as well. That would be cool to help you with that. So I'll leave the poll up for a little bit longer while people are joining the webinar. But thank you so much for answering that. And again, use that chat box if you have any questions as we go through the online training today. So I'm going to get started because by now we should have just about everybody registered who re-registered. And again, I do apologise for yesterday's gremlins in the works. It's lovely to have you on here today. And if you're watching the replay, thank you for your patience as well. So what I want to share with you today is a little bit about how personal branding can help you in a world where it's really cluttered and really overwhelming with all sorts of different options out there. Now, I've got over 25 years experience in the advertising and brand management world. I was fortunate enough to work for some amazing advertising agencies. You'll see their brands on the screen in front of you. I worked for AXA as their brand manager. I own my own agencies in New Zealand, Evergreen, which is a marketing communications company that marketed for baby boomers and seniors, and now the Ultimate Business Propeller, which is a international award-winning personal branding consultancy. So very, very cool. So those answers still coming in on that poll. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. That's awesome. And getting a few more people saying now, look, I really don't know what it is that I can, how can I explain what it is that I do? I'm really non-existent. So thank you so much for being so honest with me. That's fantastic. So yes, this is perfect webinar for everybody who's at that stage where they'd just like to be known a little bit more, because it's the foundational training. So the Ultimate Business Propeller Authority Rocket Program is an international award-winning program. I just recently won 5 of these business awards for the work that we do, helping people to get clear on how to explain what they do and how to really target the right audiences so that you stop wasting money and time on marketing that doesn't work, so you can get really clear, and it just makes it a lot easier for you. I'm also a best-selling author. Some of you may have a copy of my book. I'm happy to send you one. If you wanted one, just let me know, pop that in the chat box, and I can send you how to get hold of one of those. But the interesting thing about being a best-selling author and my book, Selling You, which is on Amazon, is all about personal branding, is that I'm also dyslexic. And this is a school report back from 1980. It was typed out. And you can see on here that the teacher had written that I had word blindness, which is dyslexia, really, which is really interesting. To be a best-selling author and being dyslexic is quite fun, really. But it sounds like a horrible thing for a teacher to tell you that you're word blind. But he was a very good teacher, and he knew that whatever he told me I couldn't do, I'd want to prove him wrong. So I started reading lots of books. He encouraged me to read, and he also helped me learn to see words and hold them in my brain, which was a really interesting way of spelling. And at the end of that school period, when I left to go to high school, he wrote, I had a class of Lauren's, there'd be no limit as to how far we could get in the program, which still gives me goosebumps that a teacher would be so impressed with my drive and desire to use my dyslexia. And that became a really cool asset for me later on in life. And yes, dyslexics certainly have all sorts of things. Now I've got people saying my screen is blank. Should my screen be blank? I have no visual. That's really interesting because I'm sharing my screen. I'm not quite sure what's going on. Let me just go back a bit. This is wonderful when you get these gremlins in the works. Let me just see if I can get out of here. Sorry, guys. I will try and do this again. It should be screen sharing, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. Can you see anything now is the question I've got for you. We're certainly sharing my screen at that stage. Just want to double check you can see that. What I might try and do is stop screen sharing, and I'll go to my slide presentation on here and just see maybe if you can see that. So, right, let's try this one, guys. So please let me know in the chat box if you can see the screen now, if you're seeing some slides. That would be really cool. If you can let me know that you're getting something on your screen, would be very awesome. Yes, also have some no visual. Okay, cool. So hopefully now you can see something. Please let me know because I am playing the presentation through Webinar Jam, and you should be able to see that. Please let me know. If not, I'm not quite sure why that wouldn't be working. My camera's on and my slideshow does seem to be working, which is very weird. So, but I'll zoom through again where we were at while I was talking about what I've been doing. Yes, I can see a slide with a picture of you on it. Awesome, fantastic. Yay, it's working. So I'll whiz through these because I've sort of already explained what it is that I do and the fact that we've got an award-winning program. I'm a best-selling author and I'm dyslexic. And I'll get to the slide where I was, which is a bit of fun for this morning. The really interesting thing about being dyslexic is I also have a bit of ADHD and I'm trying to do a million things at once. I'll actually post a photograph of what it looks like for me to run a webinar. I'll get Graham to take a photograph of me because you'll laugh when you see my desk set up and what's going on. So anyway, so yes, so I managed to use my dyslexic disability, if you like, as an asset, because after I had gotten to know how to spell and so on, I ended up working for amazing advertising agencies. And this is some of the brands that I looked after. And the cool thing with the dyslexic disability that I had was it actually enabled me to be a really, really good personal branding specialist or branding specialist, because I could see in my brain whether these brands were correct or not when they were being produced. So someone could say to me, hey, is this the right logo? And I could tell them it was last year's logo or the wrong tagline or whatever else. And Graham's just taken some photographs of me, which is really funny. I will post them on Facebook so you can see the setup that I have is quite extraordinary, but it is a lot of fun. So yeah, so this is how my disability helped me. My disability became my greatest asset, which is pretty cool. So my lesson from that really is not to get too overwhelmed with what you're doing, not to worry if you've got things that you don't find that you're very good at, because they can become part of your personal brand. They can become an asset for you. And this is one of the biggest problems I see happening in the world, is that there is a huge amount of marketing overwhelm. And I'd love to know, you can put in the chat box if this is you, that you'd love to get out there and tell more people about what it is that you do. You just don't know which channel to use. Do I use Facebook? What about Snapchat? Should I be blogging? Someone told me I should be doing podcasting. I need to get out there networking. I've still got to look after my clients. It's just totally overwhelming. So I'd love to know if that's you, if you feel at the moment that it's like trying to drink from a fire hydrant at the moment, that there's so many different ways that you could market and promote your business, and you're just feeling like, oh my goodness, can someone please just stop and tell me what I should do? Give me some clarity around which channel to use and what sort of imagery I should be using, what sort of messaging, do I need a website, all those sorts of things. Can someone just help me, please? So if that feels like you, please pop a yes or a thumbs up or whatever in the chat box. Would be awesome to find out, because I see it as a big problem, and I see that a lot of people end up doing what I call WOFTAM marketing. And WOFTAM marketing, WOFTAM, W-O-F-T-A-M, stands for waste of flipping time and money. And you don't need to do that. When you're running your own business, when you're selling a service, you really need to get clear on what your message is, so that you know exactly how to market yourself, which networking events are going to be worthwhile going to, what messages are going to be right on your marketing, what colors you should be using, what imagery you should be using, where you should be going with your marketing, who you should be targeting, all those sorts of things. And really, that's all about figuring out who your ideal client is and understanding consumer behavior. And this is the thing that I find a lot of people aren't being taught when they run businesses. They're being taught lots. Maybe if you're, and I don't know what your industry is, maybe in the chat box you could tell me what it is that you do. Maybe you do photography. You might have invested some money into equipment. You might have done some training. Maybe you're a real estate agent and you might have done training. You might have paid for all sorts of things to help you get your business started. Maybe you're an accountant, and again, you've got qualifications. You might have got an office. There's all these costs and things involved, this investment involved in your time and your money. But probably you haven't invested any time and money into consumer behavior. And this is the part that people just assume they know what their clients are thinking. They know what's going on in other people's brains, and you really don't unless you understand consumer behavior, and there's a risk to that. So what I'd like to do today is really help you to understand an insight into consumer behavior, what the human brain wants when it is choosing somebody, especially someone who sells a service, and how you can get around that, and how you can grow your personal brand to really stand out and be seen. So keep using that chat box. I've ended the poll. Thank you very much. Most people have said they're either non-existent, no one knows what I'm doing and who I am, or I'd like to be clearer and get more clients. That's awesome. Thank you. You're in the right webinar, which is great. So with personal branding, when you start a business, this is what happens. There's three things that happen in business that can hold you back. First of all, you can start off with lots and lots of competition. You can look exactly like the competition. So down on that left-hand side, lots of people, and you can just look like everybody else. And that's a problem when you start a business, especially if you're selling a service. You also don't have a hell of a lot of time to be explaining to people what it is you do and how you can help without boring them to tears. And you're busy. You're looking after clients. You're running a business. You're running a household, probably. All those sorts of things happening. So you don't have a lot of time. And you also probably aren't getting paid what you're worth, because people don't see you as the specialist. You might even be giving away consultations for free. You might be discounting your time or your services to try and get clients, and it really doesn't help your personal brand. And where you need to be, where you need to move your brand to, is right up to the right here, away from everybody else. And the 3 steps to do that, to overcome competition. And I'm sorry, guys, the slides aren't working great on this because I'm doing it through Webinar Jam. I'm learning some skills here with Webinar Jam that I'll do differently next time. But the 3 things that will overcome competition, lack of time, and lack of money is recognition, being recognized as a standout specialist in your field, reputation, so that people are being referred to you. You've got a reputation in the marketplace that people know, like, and trust you, so that they automatically refer people to you. So you're not chasing around trying to find people. People are being referred to you. And respect, so that you can charge whatever you want. So that's what we'll be doing today. We're going to be going through those 3 things, the 3 R's of personal branding: recognition, reputation, and respect. So please ask me questions as we go through. This is a live webinar. I'm here to help you. Put in comments in the chat box. Let me know if you've got any questions. Please take notes. And we're going to rip through this in the next 45 minutes to get this done. And don't worry, there is an offer at the end to help you to do more. And it's a pretty special offer for you to get started, so that you aren't feeling like you've done some great work in the webinar and then you fall off the bottom of a cliff. I'm going to give you some cool stuff you can work on probably over the Christmas and New Year break, so that you can get clear for 2018. So first one, recognition. Now, everybody recognises this man, the lovely Richard Branson. He says he's prepared to try anything once, and he is. He's known as Dr. Yes, or Mr. Yes. Basically, it's that whole idea of, look, take the opportunity. If somebody offers you an opportunity, say yes and then figure out how to do it. He's recognised for having that attitude, and it goes through his entire brand. All of the Virgin brand is very positive, it's fun, it's out there, they challenge themselves all the time. So what do you want to be recognised for? And it really is the first thing that your prospect's brain wants to know is, what is it that you do and can that help me? This is all about what you want to be recognised as being the best at. So let's quickly go through that, because there's some steps you can take to really get clear on your message, on who you are and what you do and how you help people. And the ancient philosophers knew this. They talked about this. On the temple at Adelphi, there's an inscription carved into the marble, know thyself. And the idea was that you need to know yourself and understand yourself before you try and understand the marketing world. First get to grips with your brand, then you can understand how to market yourself and avoid that waft-am marketing. So Oprah talks about it a lot in terms of the fact that it's all about your life's purpose. And it's a thread that connects the dots all the way through your life to everything that gets to your extraordinary personal brand. And there's lots of stories I could share with you about some of the clients I've worked with, and some of the lovely photographs on the screen in front of you now. I'm going to just share one of you quickly. The chap in the middle at the top there, good old Michael, he's a personal jeweler, and he loved making model aircraft and model planes when he was a kid. So he liked that perfectionism. He liked making everything absolutely spot on, beautiful, perfect. And that's what he does with his jewellery. The woman to his left, Diane Crome, she grew up in a household with her brothers and was taken out early in the morning in the dark to do the milk round, and she hated it. But she loved coming home in the afternoon or later that morning and counting the money. She loved the smell of the money. She loved the sound of the money. She loved everything to do with the money, and she ended up being an accountant. So there's a thread that takes you all the way through your life, and these people on the screen in front of you and lots of others, I've worked with them on their personal brands to find that thread. Diane ended up branding herself as an accountant, Equilibrium Business Consulting, and she came to see me because she wasn't sure if that brand was serving her. We've discovered her brand story. We went back and discovered her love of money, and her story also included some health issues that she'd had. And she visited some wellness consultants to get her own health back on track, and realised that their business model really wasn't right, wasn't working for them, and that they were exchanging time for money. And really, that just wears you out, and it's a limit. There's only 24 hours in a day, only so many hours you can work. So she created a brand new program about turning wisdom into wealth. And we had to rebrand her because her brand really, this whole idea of balance and so on, was never going to work for her. Her idea was she wanted to work with wellness practitioners to burn away the old thinking that you had to exchange your time for money, that there were other ways of making money, other ways of having a business model that were more self-sustaining, more sufficient for your business, more sustainable. So we rebranded her Wildfire Business Consulting. And there's some beautiful neurobranding going on in her brand. And she's just loving the fact that she now knows exactly how to position herself. She knows which networking events to go to. She knows how to promote her brand, what her message is, and she's loving it. She's really fired up about it. Excuse the pun, but she's loving it. So that's all it takes, really, is to get clear on your message, and it can come from your childhood stories. So I'm going to share with you very quickly my story, my background, my thread that's led me through my life. Now, I put this on the screen because it annoys Australians. And I love doing that because it's geographically absolutely spot on. So it's not very accurate at all. Australia is much bigger than New Zealand, but I come from the North Island in New Zealand, and I now live in the West Island in Australia. And I came from a beautiful part of New Zealand, this beautiful part called Hunua. Beautiful lifestyle. We didn't lock the cars, didn't lock our homes, no shoes on our feet, used to walk to school, ride bikes to school, play in the bush, come home when it was dark. It was a beautiful, idyllic way to grow up. And this is where it was. It was right out in the middle of nowhere. You can see that little dot on the YMCA Campadea, right by that massive amount of bushland, the Hunua Ranges, about an hour's drive south of Auckland, which is the largest city in New Zealand. Only about a couple of million people live there, but it's a relatively large place to come from. So people would drive from the city out to the camp where I lived. There's the gates of the camp, and they'd arrive with their chili bin and their jandals, and they'd go for a walk in that bush up behind. You can see at the end of the driveway there, that's the start of the Hunua Ranges. And they would get lost because it's quite thick bush. It's not like bush in Australia. Australian bush, I know there's stuff in there that could kill you. I know that it's, not particularly easy to get in the bush and out of the bush if you don't take water with you, all that sort of stuff in Australia, but it's quite sparse. So you can actually see your way through to find the path. It's also not particularly similar to English bush. If you took your socks and sandals and your thermos for a picnic amongst the bluebells, you'd probably be quite safe there. And it certainly isn't anything like American bush where you don't carry anything, you just stick it in the back of your SUV. That's just my little bit of fun and games with different cultures. But this is New Zealand bush. This is what the Hunua Ranges looks like. Very dense bush, and you can get lost very quickly. And you can be only a couple of meters away from the path and end up being completely confused and don't know where you are. And it's very similar to trying to market and promote yourself in business. It's that overwhelm again. It's very disorientating. It's very confusing unless you know where you're going. Now, there are two tools that we used to use when we were in the bush. And I was also a Girl Guide and a brownie, all those sorts of things. We learnt bush skills. We learnt how to look after ourselves out in the middle of nowhere. And we had a compass. And we had a map. Now, a compass will only point at north. So if you're lost, a compass is hopeless on its own. So, but it's very powerful if you consider it to be your brand, because that's what keeps you pointed in the right direction. And again, if you had a map with you, if you're lost in that Hunua bush and you had a map, again, it would be hopeless on its own because it just tells you where stuff is. It doesn't even tell you where you are. But if you put the two of them together, it's very powerful. If you can have a brand, a true north, pointing you in the right direction all the time, and a map, a marketing action plan that shows you where your clients are, where your competitors are, where your affiliates are, what channels you could use, and so on. Put the two of those together, and you've got something very powerful. So what we're going to work on very quickly is that compass for you. Now, normally this slide comes up one at a time. I'm sorry it's a bit convoluted today, but I'll step you through it. So if you start at by just drawing a compass on your page in front of you. If you've got a pad and a pen in front of you, you don't need to make it as gorgeous as this compass, just north, south, west, east, as it's there would be cool. We're going to start at west. West is really identifying the problem that you solve. What's the problem that your ideal clients have that you solve? So say, for example, you're a real estate. Now, I haven't seen on the chat box anybody telling me what your industry is. So please, if you put your industry in there, I can give you case studies specific to your industry that might be helpful. So definitely pop in the chat box. What is it that you do? What's your industry? That would be cool. So say, for example, you are in real estate and you might solve the problem of selling houses. Well, actually, that's just the how. And we're going to do execution in a minute. That's just the how. The real problem that you solve is it families that are crowded? They just need a bigger place to live. They need a better house. They need to be in a space that they love. Is it that somebody's got a too big house and they need to downsize? They just want to be somewhere where it's low maintenance. It's just easy. Maybe they're getting a bit older. They're getting towards retirement. They don't need the hassle. That's the real problem that you solve. Maybe you're a personal trainer and maybe you you think you maybe help people lose weight. Well, actually, what the real thing is that you help people with self-confidence. You help people to understand that they've got to balance their life. They need some exercise. They need some healthy eating. They need these other things happening. But that the real problem you solve is self-confidence, is that they look in the mirror and they feel great, that they actually feel great just because they are losing weight, not even a couple of days into it. They're starting to feel good. So what's the real problem that you solve? Really think about that. Think about your target audience and how they feel and what it is that you do to help them. Then go over to execution, which is on the east side of things. This is the how. How do you deliver your service? And have a think about it. If you've been in business for a little while, maybe you have forgotten some of the stuff you do with ease that other people find difficult. So maybe it's worth thinking about some of the things that you do without thinking about it. So maybe a lot of people I work with actually start writing this out as a list. So first of all, they talk to people about what they want. Then second of all, they draw up a proposal. Thirdly, they go through the proposal with the person and so on. So then they put into action. So go through step by step what it is that you do in terms of how you deliver your service. Chances are you'll find a step in there that you had forgotten that you do. And that's what makes you different. It's your expertise. It's what you do with ease that other people find difficult. So let me know if you're following on with this. I'd really like to know that everybody's still with me on the webinar. So make sure you pop that into the chat box. Maybe you've had some thoughts already about the real problem that you solve. So now let's go to South. South's really easy. Just draw a line through yourself and turn it into a dollar sign. South is your real value. And this is what I talk about in terms of the outcome. It's really important to think about the transformation that you provide for people. Where are they at now? And then once they've used your services, where do they end up? So this is what I'd really, really like to know is what's your true value? What's the transformation that takes place? And how do you help people get there? That's your true value. It's more than they pay you in money. It's the outcome that they get. How do you change people's lives? It's really important to think about that. And then last, go to North. North is about your true north. It's about your why, your passion, your purpose, why you do what you do, what drives you, why you're so passionate about helping people solve these problems. And again, please put in the chat box what it is you do. What's the industry you work in? Because I'd like to give you some tips specifically for your industry. That'd be really cool. So really think about that passion, that purpose, because seriously, probably if you worked in the corporate world, you would earn more and work less hours. So why do you still do it? Why do you still run your own business, and why are you so passionate about helping people? What is it that's in it for you? Why are you so driven to do that? So really think about that. So I've gone through that quite quickly because we don't have a lot of time on this webinar, but hopefully you can then use this to create that true north brand compass. What's the problem that you solve? How do you do it differently from other people? How do you transform people's lives? And why are you so passionate about it? That would be really cool to find out. So an example of that is the lovely Valerie. Valerie used to call herself a bookkeeper, and she called herself Frenelli Enterprises, which really didn't mean much to anybody. And when I spoke to her, she just said, look, I just love admin. I love anything admin. It's not necessarily the bookkeeping. I love getting things streamlined, making it easy for people to get hold of the information they need. I'll do the PAYG. I'll do anything that they need to make sure that their admin is under control. So now she's starting to be recognized as that. Rather than being thought of as just a bookkeeper, people are starting to refer to her saying, look, if you want anything done to do with your admin, go and get Valerie to sort it. So she's creating a recognition factor in the marketplace. And that's all it took, was for her to just focus on that. So, so that's recognition covered. We're going to go into reputation next, and how you can naturally attract the right people to your business. So reputation is all about what people say about you when you're not in the room, according to Jeff Bezos from Amazon. And it is like that. It is about what people think about you, even when you're not there. So it's the second step to understanding human behavior and consumer behavior and how the brain works. The first one, remember, was what do you do, and does that do anything for me? What's in it for me, which is about the how you tell your story, how you can be recognized. The second part is, do I like the idea of working with you? And this is about having a reputation in the marketplace that people like you and they're happy to refer people to you. So the first lesson here is don't try to help everybody. There's a saying in New Zealand that I loved. You can't help every Mary in the dairy. You really can't. You can't try to help everyone. You need to think about exactly who your ideal client is and really be pinpoint accurate with this. Really consider the people that you love working with and how they are so easy for you to just make things happen, to get success. So there are three things you need to think about with personal branding and your target avatar. First of all is their demographic. And I think about demographic more than just, yes, their age, their sex. Are they married? Do they have kids? What do they do for a living? Do they have a house? All those sorts of things is important. But what I'd like to challenge you to do is think about them in terms of their life stage. Where are they at in their life stage? If they have children, How old are the children? So remember that the first-time mum in Australia and New Zealand at the moment is aged about 31. So to have a 10-year-old, you need to be in your 40s. So where are they in their life stage? If they do have 10-year-olds and they're in their 40s, what's happening in their life? Is this the peak period of time where they're earning the most? Chances are this is where they've got the most debt hanging around as well. They've got mortgages, they've bought cars, they're grappling with having enough money coming in. They've probably got a bit of investment in schools with their children. And the kids are probably a little bit more independent, but they're still living at home. What's going on in their life stage. So think about that from a demographic point of view, because then you can think about, okay, so when is it that they most want a real estate agent? When is it that they most need an accountant or a personal trainer or a business coach? And what are they looking for? What happens in their life that they've gone, right now, I need to start looking for someone, and they find you. Next thing you need to think about is psychographics, which is more the what is going on in their brain and their heart and their mind. And this is very much around the era that they grew up in and the era that they were a teenager, and formed most of their values and beliefs and mores around what they believe. So if they're 40 years old, chances are they grew up in the 1970s. They played as a kid without internet. They've learned how to use the internet and how to use computers as they've gotten older, probably more in the workforce, maybe later on in school, but definitely in the workforce. They might have a bit of hesitancy to doing things, exchanging money online, although that's getting easier for them. They're a bit more open to change because they've seen quite a few things happen in their lifetime in terms of technology, whereas older people were even worried about Uber getting into somebody's car. You were told never to get into a stranger's car as a child. Maybe you're in your 60s and 70s today. Why on earth would you get into an Uber? So psychographics is all about attitudes. What's their attitude towards accountants, towards personal trainers, towards growth experts, towards wellness coaches or health coaches or real estate agents? What's their attitudes and beliefs and mores? So that's really valuable to think about. And then the last thing is to think about their communication style. How do they like to be personally communicated with? And there are only 4 types of personal communication styles: eagles, owls, doves, and peacocks. And I can share more with you about that. It's in my book and on my training. But basically, once you know what your personal communication style is, makes it a lot easier to figure out how other people like to be communicated with. And that can help you hugely when you're targeting your ideal client and getting that right. So that you're not trying to help every Mary in the dairy, but you're understanding what is going on inside the brain of your ideal client and how to get them referring you to others. So here's an example, the lovely Anita. She's a natural thyroid specialist. She was called Anita's Health. And I never suggest that you should brand yourself using your name. There's lots of reasons why, and you can ask me those questions if you want to. Feel free to use the chat box to do that. She was called Anita's Health. It was all about holistic health and so on. It looked like every other brand out there. It looked like, I think it was a lotus flower. And when we looked at her target audience, obviously, the one thing we realized, of course, with people who have thyroid problems is they have no energy. So to rebrand her was easy. It was like, it's got to be about energy. So verve, obviously, zest, zim, zip, live, love, life, all those sorts of things. And that beautiful firework that she's got in her brand could be a flower being nurtured back into life again. This is an exciting brand, jump-starting your life and speaking the right language. This is exactly speaking to people about what it is that they want. They want that energy. They want that jump-start in their life. So it's a perfect brand for her. So the other thing, getting clear on your target audience can help with your core message as well, your elevator pitch, because your elevator pitch is 99% about other people, not about yourself. So you need to know your target avatar before you even think about creating your elevator pitch and what to say when somebody says to you, okay, so what do you do? How to explain as a real estate agent or an accountant or a business coach how you do things differently. So really understanding that target audience is really vital in order to do that. And it can make a huge difference. This is the lovely Paul Cook, owner of Emochi. Emochi is a Sanskrit word that means, I think it's release from bonds or liberation from your bonds. And as someone with back pain does really feel like they're tied down because they can't do the things they want to do because of their back pain. Now, Paul used to call himself a back coach. Everybody thought he was a chiropractor or a physiotherapist, and he wasn't. He's actually a Alexander practitioner. So he talks about getting rid of back pain. He calls himself a back pain removalist. And when he started doing that, when he started talking about removing back pain, not just managing it, and he never uses those terms pain management because he's all about managing your body better so that you can actually get rid of pain. People started asking him, I need to know more. Where's your card? What do you do? How can I work with you? So it is all about getting that pitch right because you understand what the message is that your target audience wants to hear. And it makes it easy to do that. So those are some tips and some ideas of what you can do. And once you know your ideal target audience, you can build what I call a cascade of influence. You can start talking to the people that they go to for advice and for help and start building that reputation in the marketplace so that you've got, say, for example, if you're an accountant, you might have bookkeepers, you might have business coaches, you might have even other health practitioners suggesting that that person talks to you. So there's some tips on how to really get around that reputation factor and to grow your reputation in the marketplace. Number one, don't try to help every Mary in the dairy. Make sure that you are targeting your audience and then think about their influencers. Who are they talking to that you can go and meet with and say, hey, look, I think we've got the same target audience. Maybe there's some stuff we can do together to grow that reputation. Now, there's some other things you can do to grow a reputation in the marketplace by getting your brand to work for you, like you've seen with those two brands I've shown you. I'm going to share with you just a little insight into neurobranding, which is the science of understanding how the human brain sees brands. And I'm going to give you just a couple of examples so that you can maybe look at your brand and see whether it's giving the right message, whether it's instantly connecting and engaging with your ideal target's brain. So the human brain works on memory and emotion. That's how it makes decisions. And the interesting thing is, even though the human brain is being hit with so many messages, and I think in the 1970s, the human brain was being hit with about 500 branded messages. Today, it's more like 5,000, which is why we've got such overwhelm. That's changed. The landscape's changed with so many different social media channels and blogging and podcasting, all these different ways you can get your message out there. But the human brain hasn't changed. It still purchases using the same methodology. It goes back to memory and emotion. What do I know about this and what did I feel about it? And it's really important to understand that. And of course, creating feelings is a massive part of branding and creating your personal brand. And the beautiful Maya Angelou, God bless her soul, said years ago, people don't remember what you said and they don't remember what you did, but they remember how you made them feel. So how do you want your personal brand to make people feel? What are the emotions that you want them to have when they think of you and they remember meeting you or they remember hearing from you or they remember, oh my goodness, my accountant told me I should get in touch with those people. How do you want them to feel when they get involved with your brand? So the amygdala is a really interesting part of your brain, which is like a filter that sees things in brands and automatically, subconsciously creates an emotion around them and communicates that to your brain to help you make purchase decisions. And it's especially vital if you're looking at purchasing someone who sells services who can help you. So here's a brand, just as an example of some neurobranding that when I ask people, like I say, what does FedEx do? Everybody who responds to that question, and maybe you'd like to respond to that question in the chat box, what do you think FedEx do? So the question normally is answered with people saying, well, they ship stuff. They ship stuff really quickly from one place to the other, and they get it there on time. It's really fast. It's Federal Express. Unless you're flying in a plane with Tom Hanks somewhere, FedEx can be relied on to get your parcel directly to where it wants to go. I wonder if that's how you think as well. What do you think of FedEx? Put that in the chat box if you want to. So if that's the case, the interesting thing is that when I talk to people and I say, what does FedEx do? And then I ask them, have you ever used FedEx? And 90% of them say, no, I've never used them. So how do they know that? How do they know that FedEx gets parcels directly from one place to another as fast as possible? They're direct, they don't mess around and all those sorts. How do they know that? If they've never used their service, how do they know that? They know that from the brand. And I'll explain that to you. If you look in between the E and the X of FedEx, there's a really large white arrow. Please let me know that you can see that in the chat box. You might want to put a yes in there if you can see the arrow. In here, in between the E and the X, there's a really large white arrow. And it's telling your brain that this is a brand that you can trust and rely on to get it to where its destination is as fast as possible. There's some other cool things going on with colors as well. I haven't got time to go into those, but you can now see that you can actually create an emotion and a story and a feeling with your brand really, really simply, even just in your logo. Amazon's the same. Amazon ships lots of things around the world. They ship everything from A to Z, and there's even an arrow in their brand telling you that, which is very cool. There's also, the arrow looks a bit like a smile, and they have worked very, very hard to make their online purchasing as easy and as fun as possible. That you go on there and go and buy a couple of books or whatever you're buying, and all of a sudden you're coming out, and if you've just paid all this money for all these other things as well, you've bought a lawnmower and a wheelbarrow and all this other stuff as well. So yes, Amazon also using neurobranding to tell people it's going to be an enjoyable opportunity to shop with them, and you're going to like doing it. And we've got everything from A to Z. Wonderful. Everyone's seeing the slides and seeing the messages, which is really cool. Hopefully you're finding this interesting, and hopefully you're going to be able to look at your own brand and decide, are you creating the right message, the right emotion, the right memories to engage with the right people. You can get it wrong, of course. This brand's been around, or maybe you can get it right. They got talked about quite a bit when it happened, when they launched the brand, but you can get it wrong, and you can do some fun things. Here's some examples from some of the brands that we've created using some neurobranding science. Bismot is a new brand. This previously again was the business coach's name. Good old John, he's awesome, John Stringer, and we rebranded him with a name, and he said it's so much easier now. When I say Bismot, people want to know, what does Bismot stand for? Whereas previously when he said, I'm John Stringer Business Coaching, that was it. There's no other story to tell. So Bismot stands for Business Zero Moment of Truth. And he talks about people who are determined to succeed. They're working and slaving away in their businesses, determined to make it work, even though it's not working. And he asked them, what's your business zero moment of truth going to be? Is it that your wife wants a divorce because she never sees you? Is it that you've got the creditors coming in because you owe so much money? Is it that you've got staff leaving because your systems aren't set up properly and people aren't happy? What's going to be the business zero moment of truth that makes you stop and realize you need to do something properly? So there's some beautiful neurobranding going on in here. The I from Bismot obviously is upside down. It's an exclamation mark. We want people to have aha moments so that they start to do things about getting some proper business coaching. So that's an example of some neurobranding we've been working with and creating. Here's another one. This is lovely Gindabara. Gindabara is actually a Aboriginal name. It's a word that I created. I spoke to the Quandamooka tribe to make sure I got this right. Gindabara means place of laughter. And it's a beautiful little retreat on Kuchumadlo Island. It's only 10 minutes off the coast. It's very close to the coast, but there's no internet, no TV there. So it's a chance for you to get closer. As only seats, I think it sleeps about 20 people, so it's for small retreats and family gatherings and things like that. And the little diagram around the G at the top, those red circles with the dot in the middle, that's the Aboriginal symbol for meeting place. So again, you can not only have your brand giving messages to people's brains, but you can tell a story with your brand and create some really strong, meaningful, powerful messages that people's brains just love and understand. And you will remember this brand and you'll remember how it feels. So there's some tips for you around how to grow your reputation, how to be known in the marketplace, because people just know exactly what it is you do, but more importantly, the type of people that you help, what you do that's different, and your brand is telling them that message as well. So that's reputation. There's a bit of foundational work for you to look at in terms of reputation. Let's look at respect. Now, respect is all about obviously being paid more for what you do, respected, so that you don't have people trying to nail you down to a bargain or asking you, well, can you do that for free, or can we do a contra? Now, the Queen, of course, the royal family has quite a bit of respect. They've done some stupid things as well, but she's on our money. If you're in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, if you're in Commonwealth countries, she's on our money. She's respected. And that's what you want. You want to be able to have that scarcity, have that value, have that trust currency that people will be happy to pay you more. So how do you do that? And it is step 3, because after someone's brain has said, well, now I know what it is that you do, and I know you can help me, and I like the idea of working with you, can I trust you're going to deliver on what you promise? It's all about trust. So the interesting thing when it comes to trust is the entrepreneurial brain has done something rather interesting. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you work for your own business, and I'd love to know if you've got your own business, that would be cool. Let me know in the chat box and what it is you do. If you've got your own business, chances are you've got an entrepreneurial brain. Now, An entrepreneurial brain is awesome because it comes up with amazing ideas. It's constantly coming up with things that it's thinking of. And I know you might be laughing at this, that every 5 minutes you've got a new business idea or a new marketing idea, and you're just constantly thinking of cool things you could be doing. Now, the reason you've got an entrepreneurial brain is because when you decided to start your own business, that amygdala is also a fear center. And it's very quick to look back in those memories and emotions and go, oh, I don't know, you did this last time and it wasn't a nice experience, so you don't do it again. And when you were talking to yourself about starting your own business and stepping out on your own, your amygdala was going a bit crazy. It was talking about how it was going to be risky. You had lots of work you had to do. You had to get qualifications. You had to get clients. You need to get some income. You know, what's going to happen? You're taking a big risk here. And basically, if you've got an entrepreneurial brain, you manage to tell your amygdala basically to be quiet, to go away. I'm going to do it anyway. You took control of your own fear center, your own brain. So you've got a superhuman brain, which is very, very cool. The issue that you have if you're a superhuman with a superhuman brain is you've always got the kryptonite. And the kryptonite for your superhuman entrepreneurial brain is that bright, shiny objectitis. It's that constantly, oh my goodness, we could do that, we could do this, and you're all over the place. And the risk that you run here, if you try to do too many things, trying to help every Mary in the dairy, but more importantly, trying to say you do everything, then you do run the risk of being the master of nothing. And you end up having what I call FOMO, the fear of missing out. And you become a bit desperate. And I tell you what, the human brain can smell desperation. And the minute I don't know if you've done it yourself. I know I've done it. I've met someone at a networking event and they've given me their business card. And on one side, they've got their business. I know it could have been anything, accounting or whatever, anything we've talked about today. And on the back, they've got something else. Oh, I also design websites or whatever. The minute they do that, the fear center goes off and their trust currency is just gone. They're a jack of all trades, master of none. And this is actually a business card that I got given. It came through my letterbox one Christmas. Obviously, ideal time for him to do that because people are looking at things going on at that time of year. But I'll let you read through all the different things that he offers to do. And just ask you that question, how much do you think you'd pay this guy? He's open 24 hours a day, 7 days and all holidays. He already calls himself cheap. He's a cheap man in ute hire. And he does all this stuff. So his trust currency is virtually nothing. There's no trust factor with him at all. He's a everybody. What if he just decided to do just a couple of those things? What if he just decided, I don't know, to mow lawns dressed as Elvis? I would pay to see that, and I don't even have a lawn. So he'd get on the news, he'd get in the media, he would be different, he would stand out, he could charge whatever he liked, he could franchise that model of having famous people mowing your lawn. That would be really cool. Go and do that, somebody, because I'd love to see that happen. But that would increase his trust currency. By being desperate, by trying to do everything for everyone, you're just not earning enough money. And it just doesn't make sense. You're spending all your hours doing that. So this is the difference between being a generalist and a specialist. And you're welcome to continue being a generalist if you want to. But I would suggest you look at being a specialist. And there's a wee thing you can do to help you find that inch-wide, mile-deep niche. It's a process that I did when I developed my brand many years ago. And it took me a long time, guys. It took me 4 years to create my personal brand. I do it much quicker for other people because I've got that lovely luxury of standing outside their business and looking in. So I know how long it takes, I know how hard it is. But there's an exercise you can do. And I did it with sticky notes. You could do it with a whiteboard if you wanted to. You could use a computer, but I found it really quite a great process to do it physically, to actually get it out. So what I did was I got a pack of Post-it notes and a pen, cleared off the dining room table, and I just stood there and I wrote on every single Post-it note, what is it that I know about? I know about writing books. I know about personal branding. I know about consumer behavior. I know about working in marketing agencies and advertising agencies. I know about sponsorship. I know about sports management. I know about all these other, I just wrote it all out. I know about brand management. I know about webinars. I know about how to do online marketing. I knew all the stuff. I put it all out onto the table. I knew about the human brain. I knew about neurobranding. So I emptied my brain out onto the table. It looked a little bit like this slide out on the table. And then I thought to myself, okay, if I was going to teach somebody this, if I was going to teach them the stuff that I know in order to create a great personal brand, what order would I do it in? So then I could start to pull things out from those post-it notes and organize them into a process. And that became my program, that became my book, that became the way that I run my business, that became the way I do my coaching. Everything I do follows that same process. So there's a little tip for you that you might want to do over the Christmas New Year break. Once all the Christmas presents have been opened and everyone's gone, or you've got a moment, clear off that dining room table, get a packet of post-it notes and just do that exercise to really find your niche and figure out what is that special respect point that you want to be known for in the marketplace. So there's a little tip for you. It's really worthwhile doing, because the one thing I want to make sure you understand is that the human brain will not buy, a confused mind will not buy if it's overwhelmed, if there's too much information. If you say, yes, we can do this and this and this, and then we can do that, it just won't buy. It gets so overwhelmed that it just shuts down and walks away. So make sure you get clear on this. Make sure you get clear on your respect factor. And that, I know it's hard because the human brain, your entrepreneurial brain is going, but what if I miss out? That fear of missing out. Don't panic about that, because what happens is once you get really clear on this is what I want to be well known for, this is what I want to be respected as the go-to specialist, all of a sudden these doors open that you didn't even know existed. You get interviews coming at you from media. You get people wanting to talk to you, have you speak at their events, all those sorts of things, because they're seeing you as the respected expert. So if you get stuck, one of the other things you can do is ask your clients, what was it that I did for you? How did I transform your life? What changed in your life? What was the one thing that I was really good at? And they will help you. They will tell you that. So don't be afraid to ask your clients what you did for them. It'll help you with your understanding of your own personal brand. And think about becoming a pro. I'm really sorry, this slide is not looking great because it's showing up very red. It's not my spelling in this case. Becoming a pro. Pro, P-R-O, problem resolution outcome. If you wanted to write that down. P stands for problem, R for resolution, O for outcome. So this is what happens when you're selling services. And I see a lot of people doing this, and it's a big problem. They talk about the problem, which is ideal, because people are searching for answers based on the problem. They don't type in the answers into Google. They're looking for answers. So yes, talk about the problem. You can't sell your house. The house isn't big enough. You need something more modern. You're not fit enough. You're not well. Your business is in the toilet. You don't know your numbers, whatever it is. Paint a picture of the problem. That's absolutely perfect. You need to talk about the problem. Then what tends to happen is you tend to talk about the resolution. So this is what I do to help you resolve that. We do this, this, and this, and away we go. And the problem I find is people then stop. They say, you've got a business in a mess. I'm here to fix it, and this is how we do it. And they stop there. And the human brain doesn't work in words. It works in pictures. You need to paint a picture of the outcome. This is the big thing. We started this right from the very outset when we talked about the outcome. What do you want the outcome to be for your clients? If you can paint a picture of the outcome, all of a sudden you're engaging with that part of the brain that works on memory and emotion, because they're starting to paint a picture of what they're going to get if they choose you to help them. And that's what they want. They want the outcome. So I'm going to prove this to you, that the human brain thinks in pictures. So, and I've gone too fast, and I've given you the answer already. I love the fact that the slides aren't working quite well. What I want you to do, and you've seen the answer already, but what I want you to do is I want you to just put your pen down and think about 2 words. I want you to visualize 2 words, just so that you can see how the brain is so quick to do this. So the 2 words I want you to visualize in your brain is the words bacon and eggs. Okay. Now, chances are, because I just showed you that slide, but automatically you'll have some picture in your brain, this is similar to what you saw. Yeah. You saw some rashers of bacon and some eggs. You might have, maybe you didn't quite see the slide and you might have seen scrambled eggs. Maybe you saw a pig and a chicken. Let me know in the chat box if you want to, if you saw a pig and a chicken, because it's quite interesting. But you didn't see the words bacon and eggs. Your brain painted a picture of the outcome. It painted a picture of bacon and eggs. Now, did I tell you anything about them? I just gave you the words bacon and eggs. I didn't tell you they were cooked. I didn't tell you they were on a plate. I didn't tell you how they were cooked. You might have even smelt them. You might have even heard the bacon crackling. Your brain did that. So this is the big lesson for you. When you're talking about your services to your ideal prospects, whether that's on a webinar, on a website, in person, in a brochure, anything you're doing, make sure you paint the picture of the outcome. And I know there's one of our clients, they work with property management. And the picture on their website isn't of those people jingling keys or property and so on. The image on their website is of a middle-aged couple lying back in a hammock laughing, because that's the outcome. That's what you get when you use this company to manage your property, your investment property. You don't have to worry about it. You can lie back and laugh. So that's what you want to do, is paint the picture of the outcome for your clients. So hopefully I've given you a bit of a direction today. Hopefully you've seen all the slides. I'm hoping this has all worked. Please let me know in the chat box if what was the biggest thing you learned today. Would be really cool. And what direction you've got to help you get that reputation, that recognition, and that respect going, because it can make a big difference to your business. One of the companies that we worked with years ago with their branding, and this is a lovely story to tell, was a very small startup digital printing company. They were called Twins Digital. And we did this whole process with them. They gave them that visionary culture for their brand. We gave them that clarity. And he wrote down all the clients that he wanted to have by name. He wrote down his brand personality, how he wanted to make people feel, the whole works. And they've now gone from being a relatively small company to a large digital printing company. They now do all of the large printing in the country, banners, the big billboards, bus backs, you name it, anything big. So they got over that FOMO, that fear of missing out. They decided, we just want to be well-known, well-paid and wanted for doing large format digital printing. And they own that marketplace, and they're doing really, really well. So it does take time. It's not an instant success. And potentially when you start saying no to some people, no to some things, you are potentially going to lose a bit of income, but you will increase the volume of quality clients who love you so much that they tell everybody else about you and they pay you whatever you want, which is very cool. So I'm going to skip this slide because there's too much to do in that slide and it's not going to quite work on screen. But what I'd like to tell you about is the Authority Rocket program. It's there for you. It goes through all these steps that I've been talking about with you today: finding your true north, your single-minded purpose, how to naturally attract those perfect clients. There's the owls, eagles, peacocks, and doves, so you can work that out. How to create that core pitch, that elevator pitch that really engages, and the hidden messages in your brand, how you can create those neurobranding messages in your brand as well. So that program's available. It's online. You can jump onto the Ultimate Business Propeller website. It's $297, and you can get full access to that, unlimited access. You also get access to the closed Facebook group with all our members there. There's lots of opportunities, speaking gigs, podcasting opportunities, media opportunities that I post on there for people to grow their brands. And you get access to all of the webinars we do for our members as well. But what I'd like to do today, just because I really want you to get started with this, and that's the big thing really, is nothing happens without action. It's been great to have you on the webinar. I hope you've learned some stuff. Please pop on in the chat box what it is that you've learned today, the number one thing you're going to take away from this webinar and do. But I'd like to get you started for free. So there's a program that I've got. It's a tutorial called Brand Magnet, and it's really how to naturally attract people to your business. The number one thing you can do today to start doing that. I'm going to publish a little offer button so you know where to go. Hopefully you should see that on your screen. It's going to be up for the next 30 minutes or so and open for you to do that. If you're watching the replay, you should still be able to get on that, but you can get started for free. It's called Personal Brand Magnet. It's a video tutorial and there's some workbooks in there as well. But you can get access to the whole Authority Rocket program starting for free to really kickstart your brand into action. So the Brand Magnet, we go through a couple of things that people are doing wrong that you can avoid. Some of the stuff that you can do, and there's 3 really, really simple things you could do, basic stuff that will make a big difference to your marketing and to your branding so that you're getting your messaging right. And there's some really cool information in there about how to find the WIFM, so that you're getting clear on your target audience and the what's in it for me, so that you can naturally attract the right people to your business and get them telling other people about you, start getting that reputation up. So click on that button, get started now. Learn how to attract all the right clients you could ever want. It's free. It's coming up to Christmas, so I'm happy to give this away. And you can jump in there and get hold of Brand Magnet. If you haven't already got that, it's an amazing little quick tutorial you can use, not very long, but it'll give you some ideas to get started. So please share in the webinar, what was the number one thing you got out of today? I would love to know, what's the thing you're going to take action of? Have you clicked on that button? I haven't even got the other side of my presentation. We can see how many clicks are happening on that button. But What are you going to do next? I'd love to know. So please pop that into the chat box. What was the number one thing you got out of today? And what's the thing you're going to action straight away? That would be really cool. That slide's not going to work either, so I won't bother showing it to you. I'd just like to thank you very much. We've come to the end of the webinar. It's been about an hour. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you if you tried to get onto the webinar before and it didn't work, thanks to our gremlins. We had a few gremlins today as well, and we've managed to sort them out, which is really cool. Thank you for your patience. Please let me know in the chat box, what is it you're going to do? What's the action step you're going to take? And hopefully you take advantage of that free offer to jump into Brand Magnet and get that tutorial and get some work done over the Christmas period. It might only take maybe half an hour for you to sit down and work on the stuff that we talked about today to get really clear, so that when you launch yourself into 2018, you don't have all that clutter. You don't have all that, oh my goodness, what's the best thing to do? You'll actually have certainty and confidence to know that you're doing the right thing. So thank you so much for being on the webinar with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. Lots of people saying, great, they're into it. They're getting going on that, which is cool. And oh, there have been lots more. I'm sorry, I've been asking these questions and not responding to your answers because I haven't noticed the questions coming in. Going to write out your compass settings to be really clear. Awesome, awesome, awesome. That's fantastic. Yes, somebody's gone and clicked the button, got the brand magnet. Awesome, getting into that, which is great. Congratulations. Welcome to the brand magnet. I hope you find that really helpful. And yes, digital marketing and education. Awesome. There's some really cool people doing some amazing things. So that's wonderful. Thank you. I'm not quite sure why the names aren't coming up on the chat box. Otherwise, I'd know who it was who was saying these things. So don't panic. I will get back to you if there's anything else you need, please pop it in the chat box. I'm happy to send it to you. But more often than not, just click on that button, get hold of that free brand magnet tool. That'll help you get started. And hopefully you've learned plenty from today that you can get going on. So thank you again very much for being here. Oh, good. I'm getting lots of thank yous coming through now. That's wonderful. It's nice to know it all worked today. Awesome. It's always difficult when you run a webinar because you can't see people's reactions. So thank you very much for your patience. So look, guys, have a fabulous Christmas and New Year. Enjoy the break. Hopefully you get a couple of hours or maybe half an hour to put some effort into doing some work on your personal brand, so you can really rocket launch into 2018 with lots of clarity, lots of confidence, and you can naturally attract all those amazing clients and get that reputation factor up there so that you can get loads and loads of people just ringing you and saying, well, how do I start? I want to get going. So thank you so much, because you have amazing skills and talents that the world needs, and you do deserve to be well known, well paid, and wanted. Thanks, guys, and congratulations, and I will talk to you all again soon. Have a great Christmas. Take care, and thanks for being on today.